Greetings. Giving thanks for our supports, the headline. I'll try to be as objective as fast as possible without being incoherent. We are trying to get a message across here. We're not just simply wanting to speak about the daily events, but we want to foresee into the future how we can protect ourselves from that disaster. So we have to discover this on our own. There's a new joint resolution to go after ISIS. It's calling for 3 years, go after ISIL or any associated forces. It's also calling to go after any group that's considered to be closely related to ISIS. And not only any group that's a threat to the U.S., but any group that's a threat to its coalition partners, so NATO. They want to break up the Middle East from forming an Islamic economic partnership. They want to be right in the middle of all the trade, to be able to regulate and monitor all the trade around the world. So they have to implement this, what many people refer to as a New World Order, which is just the common law shitstem or the civil law shitstem of colonization and control that came from Britain. That originally came from Roman law, and before that came from the Babylonians. And how did they know that he was going to go behead somebody? Because they found him online and they said, oh, you know, we're Islamic State, we want you to do this, will you do this? And he said yes, and they went after him. But they want this publicity around it so that people start not trusting each other everywhere. The last thing they want is for the American people or people around the world to trust each other. There is some hope, though. The Syrian government forces, backed by Lebanese Hezbollah fighters, captured several villages near Aleppo in lightning advances last week, bringing them closer to the goal of besieging the rebel-held neighborhoods of the country's largest city. So Bashar Assad is in the process of taking out ISIS and some of these fighters that are over there killing people, cutting their heads off. And recently a retired general has acknowledged that Washington's allies created the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant terrorist group to confront the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah. So, ahead against Iran. Clark, who was Supreme Allied Commander of Europe, of NATO, from 1997 to 2000, made the revelation in a recent interview with CNN. They are zealots and resemble a Frankenstein. He didn't say exactly which allies were involved. However, it said the terrorist group's part of a strategy to destroy Hezbollah with an army of extremists. Off of Tehran Times. I didn't see this in any slave stream media. It's interesting that it comes from Associated Press, and apparently the interview was with CNN, but we didn't see those on either, did we? The Chechen commander had to break up a fight recently, Omar the Chechen, which we've been reporting on for months and months. This group is splintered. They can't get along, and they're gonna fall. But remember, the objective was always to topple Assad. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. When the president called for the airstrike, it was directly in between when they had sent Omar the Chechen Commando, the guy that hates Russia and knows that Bashar Assad was working with Russia, to topple Assad. He started fighting against Free Syrian Army. These guys ran back into Baghdadi to try to pull in all those foreign fighters. And then it became that rough rift between Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Zawahiri, who's now the leader of Al-Qaeda, understood this group was up to no good and called them off. Didn't want to join forces. So now that the intelligence agencies are using that to try to draw in Al-Qaeda fighters to their cause. 20 ISIS fighters have been killed by their own hands because they're considered to be spies. They consider the defectors to be spies, the people that want to leave the group, want to go to another group. It states in some of these articles that some of these people see ISIS as too violent. They want to leave. They didn't expect this. And what do they get? So right now, you know, digitalization is being used to target these teenagers that might be interested in joining this group for one reason or another. And it could not be these teenagers' fault, but yet they made a decision. You know, Perhaps they didn't see some of the propaganda, who knows? That's entrapment, and it's not against the law according to the feds, but we understand the Pilgrims had a purpose. And it was later on that these so-called framing fathers came along and they had another agenda. And that agenda is not in the interest of the American people. At least not the ones that wanted to escape unrighteousness.